What's up, guys? It's Brent with Lykins Motorsports. Happy Friday to everybody. I think I'm going to start maybe a weekly video with how about a goofy comment of the week section. So I get quite a few of them. So we're going to start this week's video with this goofy comment right here. Let's go over it. Alright, you guys are actually going to get a 2-for-1 this week. So 2 goofy comments. The first one, and these are public comments, so I don't mind showing who wrote them. The first one is so in response, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving here, but if you look over to the right hand side, you see those pictures and you see the Lykins Motorsports meanest, baddest Ford 445 I've ever built. That engine featured some Molnar rods, and this user says it's proven those rods are weaker than stock. I know racers that tried them. Lucky you're not pushing it past 6,000 because they will snap. So for some reason, guys feel like they have to, I don't know, come across like they know what they're talking about. Molnar rods are very strong, guys, and we're going to talk a little bit about offshore rods here in a second. But as far as offshore rods go, I would consider them in the very, very peak of the top performers there. I have spun engines to 8,000 RPM with Molnar rods. I've never once had an issue with Molnar rods. All the dimensions are usually dead nuts on. The strength is there. The weight is awesome. So I feel like a lot of people talk without really having a full story. And I also know some racers who could tear up an anvil with a rubber mallet. Tell you a story. When I first graduated from engineering school, I worked for a steel mill, and one of the department managers there knew that I liked messing around with engines, and he was telling me about this small block Chevrolet that he built, and it was built perfect. And you know how he knew it was built perfect? Because it was tight. It was so tight that he had to drag the car down the road with a tractor to get the thing to start because it was so tight. So there are people of all kinds out there, guys. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit that there is a racer out there who tried Molnar rods and was, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and broke something. But as far as I'm concerned, Molnar has one of the best reputations out there for aftermarket rods. I use a lot of them. Again, high quality, good parts. They are not weaker than stock. They will not snap at 6,000 RPM. Alright, so the next one down, right under that, it must have been a good day for people to get their feelings hurt about connecting rods. This dude says you must not know Manly connecting rods are manufactured in China because I just heard you say they are good quality rods. So I wish you guys would stop putting disown the Chinese crankshafts and connecting rods. Almost all aftermarket rods and crankshafts are manufactured in China, and I mean all. They even have a website where you can buy thousands of them for almost nothing. So quit lying to people about Chinese crankshafts and connecting rods. It's been that way since the late 90s. I don't know what in the world you're talking about, dude. I didn't lie to anybody about Chinese cranks or connecting rods. I use a lot of Chinese cranks and connecting rods. Scat is probably one of the companies I use the most. They are made offshore, the forgings and the castings, and they are machined in the United States. I don't have problems out of Scat. I don't have problems out of Molnar. I don't have problems out of Manly. I don't have problems out of Compstar. There are good Chinese-based companies, and there are bad Chinese-based companies. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, you can expect more of those, by the way, because, like I said, I get them all the time. This week's video, we're going to talk about flat tappet cam break-in and how to set yourself up for success with that. I've got a list of things that I want to talk about here. I got this idea for this video. I can't remember if it was on one of Daniel Powell's videos or one of Brian Salter's, but I was looking down through the comments and one guy said, how about a video on how to successfully break in a flat tappet cam? So, you know, over all the forums and everything, it seems like you see a lot of people having issues with flat tappet cams break in and then, you know, losing your lobe after the fact. So I think this is probably a worthwhile video topic, and we can discuss a lot of things on here. So I've broken this down into 6 sections, and we'll just go through them one by one. The first section is the cam itself. So you need to start with a quality cam core. I've been using several different cam companies over the years, predominantly comp cams, and then I use Bullet, and then here in the past 6 months or so I've been using Daniel Powell for some roller stuff. But I would trust all 3 of those guys to or all 3 of those companies to provide a quality cam core. And I think probably one of the cam grinders that watch the channel, they can verify what I'm about to say, but I think most of the cores come from the same or 1 or 2 different core suppliers. There may be some offshoots out there that maybe not as high quality, but from what I understand, most of these guys buy the cores from the same company. So, you know, that's a point in and of itself. A lot of people like to blame comp cams for when lobes go flat or something like that. But from what I understand, most of the cam cores come from the same place. So Comp Cams buys their cores from the same place as Bullet, as Daniel, as Cam Motion, as, you know, a lot of these places. And I'm not picking on Comp Cams. They pretty much keep me in business. They grind a lot of my cams for me. But I see a lot of people picking on them on the internet. And, you know, every company has problems from time to time, quality issues. That's just part of the game. I'm not perfect. I have quality issues as well. That's my GoPro beeping. Sorry about that. But what it comes down to is, so everything has a statistical analysis to it with a bell curve, and you have a sample size. Comp Cams is one of the bigger cam grinders in the United States. So You know, there's no telling how many thousands of cams they sell a year. So they may have more issues just because of the sample size. But as I'm about to explain, I think a lot of the things that people blame on the cam grinders is their own fault. So you need to use a good quality cam company and with quality cores to grind your cam. Most flat tappet cams are just cast iron cams. You grind them, send them out the door. There are options to that. You can have your cam nitrided, which adds a bit of hardness to the cam. That's good for applications with a lot of spring load, higher RPM, aggressive lobes, that sort of thing. So that's an option for you guys that run some pretty heavy duty street stuff or some drag race or road race stuff. As I've mentioned in videos before, there's also billet steel flat tappet cams, and you'll see a lot of those used in like stock eliminator, camshafts, that sort of thing. They require completely different lifters and prices get pretty outrageous, but there are different options available for the cams themselves, for the cores themselves. So point number 2, use a good lifter. I prefer to use Crowler. I think Crowler and Howard's are made by the same company. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Those two companies make really good lifters from what I use. So I don't do a lot of flat tappet motors. I don't sell a lot of flat tappet cams, but I haven't had any issues out of those guys. Trend makes some really good tool steel lifters, and I would vouch for them as well. I've used a lot of those. So a good quality lifter. When the application dictates it, when the lobes get aggressive, when the RPMs get higher, when the spring loads get higher, I would, and you can even use these when things are not higher. So Crowler makes a good EDM lifter. That means it's got a little tiny hole on the bottom of the lifter where the lifter hits the cam lobe. Under oil pressure, that just sits there and pees oil on the lobe. Gives you a little extra added lubrication there. Crowler also makes a lifter for hydraulic flat tappet cams that's got a flat ground on the side of it, so it allows more oil to get down to the cam lobe. The EDM lifters are for solid flat tappet cams. Crowler lists those, I think, as a cool face lifter. They're hydraulic flat tappets with the extra flat on the sides are called cam saver lifters. So several different companies offer lifters like that, and that's just good added protection. So good quality cam, good quality lifters. The third point is your block prep. So this is extremely important, and on the list of priorities for what to nail and what you can let slide, this is very important. As far as block prep goes, need to make sure that your lifter bores are all correctly sized. You can check your lifter to lifter bore clearances just like you can check your piston to cylinder wall clearances, your main bearing clearances, your rod bearing clearances, all that. And your lifter companies will specify what kind of clearance they want. If the lifter bore clearance is too tight, it won't let that lifter spin. Flat tappet cams need for the lifters to rotate to be successful. Some of your billet steel flat tappet cams, the lifters don't rotate as much, but 99% of the time you want that lifter rotating. And even the lobe taper angle, I think that's what it's called, can be changed to make that lifter rotate quicker and quicker, which is good for break-in, which is good for longevity. So a lot of the when we do factory block, builds in here, we have the blocks baked and tumbled, and when they do that, they put them in this chamber and they're hit with steel shot, and the blocks come out looking brand spanking new. Unfortunately, that steel shot can put burrs on lifter bores, on bottoms of cylinders, all that stuff. So part of your block prep needs to be making sure all those edges don't have burrs on them, that the bores are nice and straight and round, and that your lifters rotate. So before you even start your engine assembly, if your cam bearings are in there, slide a cam in. If it's a Ford, put a thrust plate on it, put your cam gear on it, put a bolt in it, snug the bolt up, put all your lifters in, mark them with a grease pen or a paint marker, take your hand, roll that cam gear over. All those lifters should be starting to rotate. If they don't, then there's something that you need to address right then before you start your engine assembly. Because if you get to a point where the crank is in, the rods and pistons are in, rings are filed, everything's ready to go, and you find out that you got a burr in your cam bore or in your lifter bore, something like that, then it makes it for a lot less fun scenario to correct that. So first thing, before you start your assembly, cam in, roll it over, make sure all your lifters spin freely. So as an aside to that, Ford FEs have a big problem on their factory blocks with the cam bearings being tight, cam to cam bearing clearance being tight. Sometimes I spend a couple hours trying to fit cam bearings, make sure I got clearance, make sure nothing binds up. If you have cam bearing problems or cam bearing failure, that will not help your cause in breaking in a cam or anything like that. So a tight cam bearing can start to throw metal off of it, gets up in the lifter bores, so anything like that. And as far as assembly goes, you want to make sure that you don't have anything binding in your valve train. Even something as simple as a rocker arm hitting a valve cover or something like that, a push rod hitting the intake manifold, can impede the way that lifter spins. You have to have the lifter spinning to ensure a good cam break-in. So cam, lifters, block prep, spring loads. 4 spring loads. Here's what I would consider the #1 cause for cam break-in problems. And what we're going to do here while I'm talking, I'm going to show you, we're going to go through AFR's webpage, we're going to go through TrickFlow's webpage, and I'm going to show you the what they consider flat tappet heads. So most of these companies sell cylinder heads set up for a roller and set up for a flat tappet. And the differences are the spring loads. What they don't tell you is the spring loads need to be much lighter for break-in. So a lot of these cylinder head companies ship these heads out, and the spring loads are like 130, 140 seat. Guys, that's just way too much for a cam break-in, unless it's a billet steel cam with DLC coated lift or something like that, where you don't have to worry about a break-in. Even the nitrited cams, the tool steel lifters, you can kind of give them a little bit more freedom in what you can get away with on spring loads. But for the majority of flat tappet cams, you need to keep the spring loads low. If you're buying assembled cylinder heads and you're bolting them on without pulling the inner valve springs out, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. So a lot of these heads show 130, 140 seat, like 330, 350 on open. When I go to break in a cam, I want the seat spring loads under 100 pounds, and I like to see about 250, 275 on the open. I've never had a problem like that. Yeah, so let's roll through real quick and look at these different cylinder head manufacturers. Alright, so we're going to check AFR real quick here. Get this small block Chevrolet cylinder head that they offer, and if you look down here where it starts listing the parts, you got an 8mm intake valve, 8mm exhaust valve, pack racing spring, solid flat tappet dual spring, 140 pounds on the seat. So in and of itself, that spring load is nothing to worry about, but it's when you try to break in a fresh cam with 140 pounds on the seat that can potentially give you some issues. And let's see here, 140 pounds on the seat. It doesn't give us the spring rate, but I would imagine it's up there pretty good for a solid flat tappet. So if we look over here at TrickFlow, here's TrickFlow's Ford FE heads. The 146 spring is a flat tappet spring. So let's roll down here. You can see it says camshaft style hydraulic flat tappet. And we can go to the instructions for that cylinder head. Valve springs, standard. 460 OD dual spring with a damper. 100 and basically 130 pounds installed height. So 390 per inch rate. So if you had a 550 lift cam, that's 214 pounds, and if I add that to the seat load, that's 342 pounds. So, 130 and 340, trying to break in a cam, that's pretty stout. Let's go over to ProMax. A lot of customers email me about ProMax heads. So I'm looking right here, spring options, hydraulic flat tappet. If we go down here to technical specs, look at here, almost 150 pounds at seat, 350 pounds open. Guys, that's a lot of spring load, a whole lot of spring load. 145 pounds, you don't even need that, period, for a hydraulic flat tappet on the street. So, if you guys see that these heads are set up for a flat tappet and they just bolt them on and just ride the waves, and it usually doesn't turn out very good. So just be very careful when you're putting your heads on. Check those spring loads, and if you have to leave an inner spring out, if you have to switch to another valve spring, do that. So I have had customers order cylinder heads off of me and order them for a solid flat tappet and request that I use beehives. Well, on a beehive you can't pull the inner spring out. So my instructions to them was let's throw a very light spring, a single spring or a dual spring, light dual spring, something like that, on here for you to break your cam in, and then I'll send the beehives along with it that you can swap over later. But this is one of the things that I think causes the most problems. Fractures. Okay, so cam, lifters, block prep, spring loads, oil. Oil is a big part of this. Get yourself some high quality oil. So pin grade, hold on a second, let me show you something. So Penn grade, they switched. I'm sorry, this is Brad Penn. They switched to Penn grade. So get yourself some break-in oil that will have the necessary additives in the oil for a successful cam break-in. Don't just slap any old oil in there. Don't just slap any old oil in there and throw in a can of additive. Get yourself some good break-in oil. That's what it's meant for. And continue to run it. Okay, so Penn grade driven makes some really good flat tappet oil to keep on running. You know, you're going to build a new motor, you're going to put a new cam, lifters in, spend some money on some good oil. On assembly, coat everything as liberally as you can with some good assembly grease. A lot of these cam companies send some good, you know, real thick, like driven engine assembly grease. I'm going to show you some of that. This is what I use on flat tappet cams. It's really good and thick. I use this on the cam lobes and the lifters too. Now, by the time you get your valves ran and you roll the engine over a couple times, the nuts and bolts of this is that most of that's going to be gone. It's probably going to be dropped in your oil pan, but most of it sticks to the surface. When you get your engine ready to start, make sure you prime that oil pump, get some oil circulating, flowing down, you know, in the lifter valley, dropping down. So cam, lifters, block prep, spring loads, quality oil and assembly grease. And the last thing is, when you fire that engine up, you want it to start immediately. So that means your fuel bowls in your carburetor have to be full. If you have an electric fuel pump, you know, go ahead and jog it, fill the bowls, check to make sure your float levels are good, make sure nothing's pouring out of the vent tubes, you know, stuck float, something like that. If you've got a mechanical fuel pump, take a syringe, a pipette, a turkey baster, whatever, suck the fuel up in it, fill your fuel bowls through the vent tubes until the float levels are up. Make sure your timing is set correctly. So if you're coming up to top dead center on your balancer and you're dropping your distributor in and it's pointing, the rotor's pointing at the number 1 terminal, it's going to be late. It's going to be retarded. You need to have advance in it. I've made several videos on that, on how to drop a distributor in so that it'll fire immediately. You got to have advance in it. If you have a good amount of advance in it, it'll start immediately, and you can set your timing real quick and get it going. Retarded ignition timing will make your headers glow red. So put some advance in it and your engine will thank you. Keep your engine cool. Make sure your radiator is full. Make sure that you park a big fan in front of your vehicle so that you have good airflow over the radiator and over the engine, because you're going to be sitting there spinning that thing at I like to go 2,000, 2,500 RPM for 15 minutes. Just sit there and just vary the RPMs, and that can build up some heat, especially if it's a brand new engine. You're breaking in the engine, your seat and rings, all that stuff, so you're going to be making some heat. So make sure you have a way to cool it down. Some guys take a water hose and just sit there and let it run over the radiator, so you get air flowing through the radiator, cool water over the radiator. So good stuff there. So yeah, good cam from a good cam company, good lifters, quality lifters, but buy your stuff from a good company. Prep your block correctly. Make sure your spring loads are good for break-in. If you've just bought new heads, check the spring loads, pull the inner springs out if you have to. I know it's a pain in the hind end to break your cam in and then pull the valve covers and then pull the springs and rocker arms and everything off. The alternative is a lot worse, I promise you. Use a good oil, use good assembly grease, set yourself up for success on fire up. That's it. So, thank you guys for watching, for being a part of the channel. We got OJ coming up, the dyno session this coming Friday. So we'll finally get to see how much horsepower that thing makes, and we'll see who guessed correctly on the horsepower and the RPM. So hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out, and that you're not sending me messages 3 months from now saying, hey, did you ever dyno that modular Ford engine? That happens a lot. People, for some reason, don't understand that people can make new videos, and you just need to look for them. So, got OJ coming up. Got all kinds of Ford. I just shipped out 2 Ford engines yesterday. Small block Fords went out, and I've got to replenish my engine stands and start on some new stuff. But you don't want to miss out on any of that. Hit that subscribe button. Comment, as long as your comment isn't goofy. If your comment is goofy, then you'll probably see it featured on future videos. Sorry. Patreon links. So if you look down below, there will be a link to how you can be a Patreon to the channel, so a supporter of the channel. All this Dyno Mule stuff that you guys get data from is expensive, and any few bucks or whatever you can throw at me is a big help, and I appreciate that. The Patreon allows you to do that. It's basically a monthly subscription to the channel where you pay, you know, 10 bucks, 20 bucks a month or whatever, and it goes to Dyno Mules and that sort of thing. It's a big help. So there's some added perks to that, so check that out. All right, hope you guys are having a good week. I'm going to see how much I owe on taxes here in a minute, so I'm not going to have a good weekend, but I hope that you will. Stay tuned for next week. OJ's coming up.